Hello and welcome to another episode of the Nerdy Brigade. Now welcome you to another episode of Struggle and Triumph. Today's episode we will be looking at Dark Souls 3, which is a lot more mainstream than the previous games I have looked at so far for the show. But the Dark Souls games are famed for their difficulty, so how will this one fare towards the ranking? Let's figure that out. Well, there's a little bit of a problem actually first. So, in Dark Souls, a lot of the bosses are mandatory, and on Struggle and Triumph, I like to look at optional challenges, like secret bosses, hardest difficulty options, or even DLC. Now, Dark Souls 3 has very challenging DLC, but we're looking just at the base game for this episode. So that only leaves us with the secret/optional bosses of the base game to look at, which thankfully still gives us quite a few bosses to look at, including the Old Demon King, the Ancient Wyvern, the Consumed King Osiris, Champion Gundyr, and finally the proper secret boss of the game, the Nameless King. Now I understand that the Curse Rod of Greatwood is technically also optional, and killing Champion is required for an ending, but I'm going to skip Greatwood because I don't have good footage of the fuck, and he's also really easy anyway, so I wouldn't really contribute towards the ranking. And I'm going to include Champion regardless, because I still think he counts as optional. I bet he's optional for majority of the players. Alright, with those rules out of the way, let's begin. There will be timestamps on the screen around the video. If you don't know anything about Dark Souls, I recommend you watch the entire video, as the section after this one will explain the basic mechanics. If you only don't know anything about the bosses, maybe you've played previous Souls games before and you've not played Dark Souls 3, then you can click the first timestamp you see on the screen, so where I talk about the bosses. And if you just want to see me fight these bosses with my garbage ass footage, then click the final timestamp. Alright, let's get moving. Dark Souls is a franchise designed around old school difficulty in video games. It's a 3D, slow-paced action game with brutal punishments for failure, hazardous and deceiving level design, and little to no hints along your journey. To be fair, a majority of these are irrelevant towards the bosses themselves, but the important thing to get across is the vibe of Dark Souls and its unforgiving nature, or at least that's the type of nature I want to force onto the player. There will be no checkpoints in boss fights, there will be limited heals, and you will constantly feel belittled as you face these giant beasts, because they're always like 3 times your height even when they're just other humans. Now, Dark Souls 3 is a bit more forgiving than most of them, with a fairly short spawn points of the bosses and character customization slash travel being easier with the new Firelink Shrine as well, which is a much better main hub. Because it allows you to access all the merchants for spells, weapon, and armor, basically in one little easy to access spot. Now, that's one of the biggest thing about Dark Souls. There are a staggering amount of weapons, spells, armors, and just a whole bunch of stuff that could be equipped. And your character can level up in any way that you could ever want. It's insane, honestly, how much customization there is available for every character. Which can make writing a guide or just talking about these bosses very difficult, because a lot of other players won't have the exact same reaction because of their different weapon or magic style, whatever the hell they're doing. But regardless, I will try to generalize as best as I can. Now, there are 3 main things that pretty much all players have to deal with regardless of their build, which is number 1, health. If you get hit too much, you die. It's basically all there is to it. Some builds like to go for a lot more HP, others don't. It's basically the most important thing you got going on right now, because if you don't have any HP, you're not going anywhere. The bosses are, for the most part, pretty damn aggressive, so staying in top condition can be incredibly difficult. But that also relates to the second thing, is rolls and stamina. Now, stamina acts as both your juice for your attacks and your juice for your defense. Because when you are using your stamina, it's for basically any sort of movement. Either rolling, backstepping, putting up your shield and blocking attacks. It all requires stamina, and stamina refills constantly, but you're also using it constantly. You need to maintain a nice sort of balance in some way, where you at least have enough stamina to dodge away from an enemy attack. And stamina is very important to pretty much all the fights that you do. And it's also important to get good at rolling. Now, because rolling is your main defense. Because even with high HP, a big shield, you're not going to really be able to block everything. Or at least I don't think so. And being able to roll good is very, very, very helpful, because in this game you can roll in any single direction, and in Dark Souls in general, you're invincible at certain points through the roll animation. So you roll through the enemy attack and then hit them, which goes into my third thing I need to talk about, which is learning the patterns. Pretty much regardless of what build you're playing, you need to learn the patterns of the boss. You need to learn when they are open, when you can attack, when you should block here, when you should dodge there. That type of stuff comes with trial and error, but it's still important, because you can't beat a boss without at least somewhat understanding his patterns. Even if you beat him on your first try, it's because you can understand patterns very, very well. Now, understanding patterns requires a few things. It makes it so that you should not be like stressed out. You should be very patient and observant, because again, it's a relatively slow-paced game, you know, compared to at least other action-paced games, 3D action character-based games. But all that time needs to be spent learning the patterns, punishing enemy attacks with your own attacks and whatnot, and getting a feel for the fight itself. Now, again, that is much easier said than done, but it can really be overcome with patience, observation, and just not stressing out and panicking too much, because panic rolling is one of the worst things that you can do when you're just spamming the dodge button as well, because you're probably going to get hit by something. And that's all the stuff out of the way for the basic mechanic. I understand Dark Souls is a game that can go incredibly in depth, but this is about all I want for... This is all you need to know, honestly, for the fights themselves. So let's get on to the fights. Fuck. Alright, now on to the challenge itself. Now let's get the big, obvious thing out of the way. There are some main storyline bosses that are equal to or surpass a vast majority of the optional bosses. But again, only a few. Pretty much all of these folks are difficult in their own right. I will divide the optional bosses into 3 tiers for the most part, from weakest to strongest. There's C tier with the Ancient Wyvern by himself, B tier with Old Demon King and the Consumed King Osiris, and finally A tier with Champion Gundyr and Nameless King. So let's go from weakest to strongest and explain the challenge each one provides. Okay, I know I've been hyping up like all of these guys, but let's get the obvious out of the way, or the double obvious out of the way. The Ancient Wyvern is just a borderline cutscene. As soon as the fight starts, you run right by it, climb around, fighting some regular enemies, and then land on its head. Boom, that's it. And I'm not really sugarcoating it or anything like that. It's really not that long. And the Wyvern does not even do a whole lot to stop you. I feel like the only reason why people would ever die on this fight is because they try to rush the obstacle course, but it's really not even that long in the first place. And the Axe Chain Lizard can be a scary enemy, honestly, because it's your first time fighting him. But seriously, this is a ridiculously easy fight. Now, some may call absolute blasphemy that I put Osiris below Old Demon King. I have my reasons, man, so let me get to them. First phase, the old dragon fuck has some very delayed stash strikes that can mess with your roll timing, and has some hops of his own, and it has an AoE ice spell that you can just avoid by hugging his tail. Some of it is pretty difficult stuff, but nothing too crazy. But when most people talk about a difficult Osiris, they are mostly referring to his second phase, where he goes a little bit apeshit. It has some of the most craziest combos in the game. However, a majority of these combos are only dangerous if you are in front of him. So the answer is to hug that ass. Our buddy, the Consumed King, can't do a whole bunch if you're not scared of him. I feel most players die because they try and keep their distance from the rampaging beast, which makes sense, but when in reality, it's better to be close in behind him. We can really only do 2 things when you're behind him, which is either turn around to try and do a face combo, or do the tail swipe attack, and both of those have very obvious tells. And I understand that there is a like an instantaneous charge that he can do as well, but I haven't seen it that much. But I can understand that that makes the fight a lot more difficult for certain people. That's really just it, though. Hug the butt to win. It's not that bad, even with his crazy combos. Now I got hit by that even when hugging the butt, but like you're not stuck in them forever. You can dodge out at some point. Now, a vast majority of people will say that they consider the Old Demon King to be easier than Osiris. Now, he does have slower swings. He's a mid-game boss, so you can just grind to outpace him. And he also doesn't have as much crazy combos. But the old Demon King is much more refined. First up, he does have some combos, like swing into blowing a Kiss of Death, or the Exploding Hammer. When I'm saying difficulty with the old Demon King, I'm mostly talking about the second phase, where the Pyromancy hits an all-time high against this old fuck. He's got meteorites raining down, and this annoying-ass fire circle that comes back and forth, some big breath attacks, just so much flame and so much variety of different attacks that makes it so that you can't really hug a specific part of his body to be safe for majority of it, especially the flame circle. Now, because there isn't like as much a clear victory path in this fight, that's why I think it's a much more varied and difficult encounter altogether. But I will 100% understand if that's not how you feel, because it's pretty much widely accepted that Osiris is harder than old Demon King. It's whatever. My opinion is just a small one, so I 100% understand if people don't agree with me on this one. We got 2 more to go, though. This is where the stuff really cranks up in difficulty, and what I'm really talking about when I'm talking about optional bosses in Dark Souls 3. Okay, here we go. The last 2 in A tier, and the reasons why I'm making this video in the first place. We have the champion himself, Gundyr. This has got to be one of the most, like, aggressive motherfuckers I have seen in this game. This guy gives no break. He just wants you dead. He's got delayed ass swings up the wazoo, lightning fast kicks, and charges that will follow him to the ends of the earth. And a second phase where he kicks the aggression into overtime. This man's greatest strength is the ability to crush and challenge almost every type of playstyle with his large variety of attacks and patterns. And that's really why he's so difficult. But despite this immense difficulty, there's not a whole lot to the fight. The close range swings can be dodged with patience. If you're behind him, you should expect a kick, and if you're far away from him, expect a charge. Now, expecting something is a lot different than actually being able to deal with it, but you get what I mean. The champion can hit almost any playstyle, but despite his acrobatic abilities, he's kind of limited with his approach. So while difficult and incredibly aggressive, you can eventually, with enough patience, see through his aggression and overcome the champion. Yeah, here's the big one, the most proper secret ultimate boss, the Nameless King. The only proper 2-phase fight at our list. The fight will start with the king on an intimidating dragon, the king of the storms, which breathes fire, and the king will use his perch to hit you with dangerous lightning attacks and hit you with his deadly spear. But he will also use the greatest ability ever in this first phase, which is to fuck with your camera as it flies around. Seriously, why? Anyways, hitting the dragon's head is the most effective way to do damage in this fight. Now, honestly, the fight doesn't go on for that long, since the beast will eventually stagger, and that will honestly just like end it right there. However, I can totally get if people have a difficult time with King of the Storms. He does have some very dangerous attacks. He's got that downwards fire breath attack, which I still don't know how to ignore. The swings, despite some saying that they're easy to avoid because they're very telegraphed, I find them very difficult because I have no idea what movement speed the dragon head that's carrying the king is going to go at right before the swing. It's very disorienting for me personally, and I can get it if you think he's difficult, especially with the really whack-ass camera. But again, first phase does not have a lot of HP, so if you can stagger him and hit him with that repost or whatever the fuck it's called, he's pretty much done. However, then the real fight will begin after you deal with the first phase. The Nameless King will challenge you on foot. He has a fuck ton of moves and combos that feels like you can just randomly string into together. However, stuff's delayed, but it's not really going to affect you if you're more of a patient player. Besides the slow swings that he has in close range, he's got air currents at long range, both a grounded charge and an aerial one. This one you can avoid by as soon as you start seeing him moving. After he's ready himself for the charge, you press dodge. He's got some cloud skating stuff that he likes to do to get behind you, and he's got this fucking lightning attack I still don't know how to avoid properly. And you combine this all together with the fact that he has a royal fuck ton of HP, it is quite a trial. However, I should stress again that his stuff is very, very telegraphed. The worst thing is committing to an attack while he's in the middle of a combo, but since he is so telegraphed, patience is once again your greatest ally. And he also staggers at one point too, much like his steed, meaning his HP isn't all that large in reality. It's still a lot though. Nameless King is tough, and probably my choice for the hardest fight in the game, but again, like pretty much all soul bosses, observation and patience are your best friend. And this fight really, like, exemplifies that tenfold. Now, by this point in the game, you've already dealt with some already similar stuff, so taking down the king is a tough challenge, but nothing anywhere close to impossible. I'm pretty much ready. Sword. Okay, champion. Ooh, baby, ooh, baby, ooh, baby. Charge it, motherfucker, do it. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Ah! Damn, you are. Oh, that is a grab. I was about to say, that looks a little weird. Owie! Ah! Hello. You kicked the wrong way, dude. Ah! You didn't kick the wrong way that time. Oh my god, you are going crazy on your last percent, man. And I'm probably about to lose it. No, no, I'm not. Mind if I choke this too? So, I just want to be a tippity top condition. I'm sure you can agree. Yeah, he's done. Another toughie, but I didn't give him a fair fight, honestly, because I fought him way later than I should have. I didn't know he was optional. I really thought you fought him right before Soul Cinder, because I don't know, I thought you went back to the past for the final fight. My bad. Oh god. One of these days I will hit him. Fire breath? Alright. Okay. Okay. Well, well, first phase not that bad. I just need to learn how to dodge that one specific attack, because you really don't even have to go through the entire thing. It'd be really cool to do this on my first try, but I really doubt it. I never noticed you actually were a skeleton. Second one, damn. A third! Oh, cool fourth! Being greedy. And you continue. How did I already forget that? That's it for me. I ain't waiting for one. Okay! job with like timing like Smoker Demon, man. Okay. I am very close for that. Sorry, I guess there's just something in my brain that thinks that that attack should be free after that. But no, it's not free. Oh, way too early. Well, at least I didn't kill me. But I'm probably gonna die right now, honestly. Especially if I can't fucking lock onto him because I'm too far away because I'm a little bitch, baby. Okay, well that didn't even go across. Should've swung. You are a bad motherfucker. One swing. And he didn't do the secondary that time. Fuck you. And woo! And that's it. Fucking 2 tries! Alrighty, past the struggle of triumph and on to the ranking. Perhaps my reactions are not as crazy as you were expecting. I really can't help it. I'm very familiar with the Soul series at this point. And honestly, I didn't get all that mad with it. But that's the problem. I am very familiar with the Soul series. But struggle and triumph is about giving the best possible rankings I think I can muster. Which makes ranking these fights very, very hard. Because they were not that difficult for me, but I'm trying to be a bit more general, I guess. So, if I rank them all individually and then try adding it up, like what? Like, Ancient Wyvern really is not worth anything. Old Demon King and Osiris maybe worth like almost 1 star. Like a borderline a star. And then Champion and Nameless King worth 1 star each. But that would give us like... That would give us like borderline 3 stars as a ranking. In all these fights together, even ranking them together, it's not that bad. It seems way too high. I think I have to go, for this particular fight, I would rank the optional bosses of Dark Souls 3 as a borderline 2 stars. Now, again, this might be very controversial, but I really didn't think it didn't take me that many attempts. And the hardest ones can be defeated with decent patience and experience. Now again, much easier said than done, perhaps. And I can be very, very biased here. But that is legitimately how I feel. Even, like, I just can't see these guys as like a 2 star or like a 3 star on the ranking. Because, you know, it's like just a few simple bosses, man. It's not that hard to dodge shit. But I know that the DLC bosses are very, very crazy. So when I get around to ranking them, I know things will change massively. If I had to give a guess to what the ranking would be, maybe like a solid 2 stars. Or maybe even more. I have no idea. But I'll see you guys for that on the next Struggle and Triumph. Alright, thank you for watching, everybody. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.